Welcome to the Krista Redpath Show, where sports take center stage and stories come to life. I'm your host, Krista, veteran analyst and passionate storyteller, bringing you weekly in-depth conversations and sharp analysis across the world of sports. The Krista Redpath Show, breaking down the game, elevating the story, and championing the female voice. Today's show is proudly brought to you by Vertical Raise, your premier online fundraising platform. A clear, concise message with the best technology interface. To learn more about Vertical Raise, please visit verticalraise406.com. This week on the Krista Redpath Show, I am continuing to take you around the Big Sky in women's hoops. Today's stop right here in Missoula with a familiar face leading the Lady Griz. Nate Harris enters his first official season as the head coach of the University of Montana women's basketball program and is fifth on the Lady Griz staff. After stepping into the interim role midseason last year, he guided Montana through one of the most memorable stretches in recent program history. From upset wins over Idaho and Northern Arizona at the Big Sky Tournament in Boise to a championship game that came down to a final shot, the Lady Griz finished one possession away from dancing. But Nate's journey to the helm has been built over years on the Montana hardwood. Born in Sidney, raised in Ronan, a Montana Tech graduate with a degree in math, and a coach who has built winning programs across the state, from MSU Billings to Montana State to head coach at Angelo State, and now back in Missoula. And at the heart of all of this is his family. His wife, Elise, a Missoula native, and their four daughters, Henley, Harper, Holland, and Hayden, the pride and driving force behind everything he does. Now, officially, at the head of the program he's helped build, Nate Harris leads the Lady Griz into the next chapter. Today, we talk Montana roots, building championship culture, the future of Lady Griz basketball, and the family that fuels it all. So let's get right to it. Nate Harris joins me today on the Krista Redpath Show. Welcome in, Nate.
Thanks, Krista. Thank you for having me. So excited to be on. So excited to talk about my favorite things, Lady Griz basketball and my family. I mean, what's better? Well, and Montana, like literally my three favorite things right there.
I love that. Well, we'll start right there. So you were born in Sidney and you were raised in Ronan. That's pretty incredible. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to grow up in Ronan.
It was awesome. It was a great place to grow up. We lived kind of all over the state. My parents were both educators, classroom teachers. So I was born in Sidney because we lived in Poplar at the time, bounced around, also spent time in Colstrip and Lewistown as they tried to find the right school district, the right location. My mom is from Polson, so when Ronan came up, it gave us a chance to grow up and have my grandparents at everything, which was really, really important to my parents. And so it was a great place to grow up. Obviously, you're tucked into the small town, a great small town feel. My grandparents were in Polson. I had two younger brothers, and it was kind of the idyllic, Montana youth where, football games on Friday nights, bird hunting on Saturday mornings, everyone in the town comes to your games, that kind of stuff. And so I count myself incredibly lucky to have grown up in the place that I did and with the people that I did. And so, yeah, Ronan will always be a part of me. We're always a proud Ronan chief. Still root for him. I went to their game at the state tournament as I was in between the girls' games last year out recruiting. And so, yeah, all of that stuff. It was like I said, it was a neat place to grow up, but then also gave us the opportunity to grow up with my mom's parents, 10 minutes away. And so that was a big part of our youth as well.
Well, it's certainly a beautiful part of Montana, up with the missions. It's kind of picturesque. Did you have siblings or did you grow up playing sports in your household?
Yeah, so my dad was a high school basketball coach, and so I was the ball boy for the Chiefs, a couple of years. I think the head coach was Bill Buckless at that point. My dad coached him for a couple of years, and so athletic family. I have two younger brothers. They both my middle brother played football at Rocky, and then my youngest brother played a little bit of basketball at Montana Western. So, so athletics was always a big part of what we did and was a great way. Obviously, the small town piece of it, it's a great way to connect with your peers. That's what all of my friends did, was everyone would play football and then play basketball. It's actually led me to my soapbox a little bit as I talk to kids when they're being convinced into playing one sport. I'm like, that is not what this state is about. That is not what growing up in this state is about. And that's play as many as you can, play as much as you can, because you're going to miss them all when you get old.
Well, I love to hear that because that is so true. I agree. The multi-sport athlete, it's a really great thing for our state. Talk about recruiting. You ended up playing at Montana Tech. Was it always basketball that you wanted to pursue? And did you get recruited elsewhere, or why Montana Tech?
I was good at enough things that I had some other opportunities, but nothing I really wanted to. I loved hoops. I was with a group of friends that that was what we loved, and that's what we spent our time doing. We didn't really go out and get into that much trouble on the weekends. We spent a ton of time in the gym and just loved to play basketball. There, I had some other opportunities. I had some Ivy League things, some other kind of high academic. I had tricked people into thinking I was smart as I went through high school, had the high GPA, tested well on some things. But when it came to the Ivy League, that wasn't a good fit for me, and being that far from home, and unapologetic mama's boy, there was no way that I was gonna go that far away from my family and be on the East Coast and live that life. And so Montana Tech just kind of added up. I thought I'm gonna go play basketball and be an engineer, and that's gonna be my life. And obviously God laughs when you tell him your plans, and so obviously my life has been different than that, but it was a great place, and spent 8 great years. I mean, from playing and then coaching in Butte, America, one of my favorite places.
Isn't Butte the best?
It is an amazing place. I was, again, by no kind of just luck of the draw to grow up in Ronan and then spend time in Butte. You're talking about some of the best people around.
Did you have any great friendships that you still keep up with today, like your teammates? I noticed that you had Hudson Lutke's dad was at the last game, who's a good friend of yours. Of course, everyone knows Hudson around the state, but did you make some great friendships, and do you continue to keep in touch with, people that you played with and also coached with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from growing up, Matt Ludke, he's the head coach at Butte High. His son Hudson is a tremendous football and basketball player. So Matt's one of my best friends from high school. I have a handful of others. We have a group text there. Have some really, really close friends. Actually, another one was at the game from have my college group of friends as well. And then in coaching, have so many. They start out as mentors, but then become really good friends. Again, I count. Chris Wright was my boss. He's the head coach at Langston University, but he's one of my closest friends. We talk almost daily. Text with Kevin Wooden a lot at MSU Billings. He was a boss who's now a really good friend. And then most of my texts with Trish are about her daughter or my daughter or stuff like that. We rarely talk hoops. I text her after a couple big wins, and we haven't had one yet for her to text me, but I'm sure she would. She's somebody that you just kind of pick up people through the years at different stops, and hold on to the ones that are important to you. And I've been, like I said, blessed enough to have a lot of people that have stayed in our life and stayed in my wife's life from all over the country that we really, we're really thankful for.
So Nate, were you always drawn to coaching, or was this something that, you get your degree in math? I've listened to you talk in other interviews about maybe going and working in tech or becoming a firefighter, but obviously we're so thankful that you chose coaching. But what led you down that path?
I wasn't ready to give up hoops. I wouldn't say I always wanted to be a coach. I didn't know what I wanted to be, which led to the potpourri of maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do this. And I wasn't really sure, but I knew I wasn't ready to give up hoops. And so in that kind of year before I became a full-time assistant, I did a few different things. I did volunteer with the basketball team and was kind of an unpaid assistant. I did some teaching. I did some random stuff for a marketing group in Portland. And I just wasn't ready to give up hoops. And now I probably naively got into coaching without knowing all the things that come with it, all the benefits that come with it, and all the hard stuff that comes with it. I was just like, this is my chance to stay around hoops and to keep competing, because I love the 30 nights a year you get to go get after it. And then from getting into it that way, it's really grown into something different, where it's you get to have being part of a team. There's nothing like it. And the closest you come as you get older, again, in business, you try to create the team atmosphere, but you don't get a chance to really impact people, and that's where it's changed so much. I probably still love to compete as much as anyone, but the chance to help people do things that maybe they couldn't do themselves has become kind of a driving force, more so than just the chance to compete or just the basketball piece of it.
So you got your coaching start at Tech and Fresno Pacific on the men's side, but you move over to women's basketball. What led you to making that switch from men over to women's? Was it opportunity, or were you more drawn to that part of the game?
again, kind of 100% a God thing. We had left Fresno Pacific. We had found out we were having Henley, our oldest. And my wife went to one doctor's appointment in Fresno and was like, I am not having our baby here. Like, not going to happen. We have to figure this out. So we knew we were going to leave Fresno. As much as professionally, it was a really good setting. We were like, nope, this isn't the right fit. There were some funding things with the job, even though I was the associate head coach there. And again, that was working for one of my best friends. But having this child, trying to figure out what that looks like in the next step, led to interviewing for, honestly, I think it was like 4 or 5. I finished second over and over, like to be a head junior college coach, to be a Division I ops guy, to be a Division II assistant. There were a handful of things I finished second for. But late in the process, because I spent that summer working in a fireworks warehouse, actually here in town in Missoula. Elise was going to the doctor. We didn't have health insurance. We didn't know what was going to happen. And then somebody called and said, hey, MSU Billings needs a women's assistant. Would you be interested in that? And I was like, I've never even really thought about that, but went and interviewed, and Kevin offered me the job. And so it was this great lifeline for our family first, but then turned into something so much more, because I got to see somebody who is a real pro in women's basketball and how he treats people and how he coaches people. And I got to work with some tremendous young women who really, really competed. And there are, a few general differences in coaching men and women, but really it became such a great fit because of the group I got to work with at MSU Billings, that we kind of got to grow up together, me and women's basketball coaching and them finishing their career. And it was like, this is a tremendous fit.
Well, you had a lot of success at MSUB, and Kevin Wooden and the teams that you built, I think about some staple names from around the state. When you think about like just names that really were prevalent with girls basketball, Quinn Peoples from Butte, Montana, yep. Courtney Henry, a Malta girl. It seems like there's a lot of Malta connections. Bobby Knudsen, Alicia Breen from Shoto. These were all part of that 2013-2014 team that finished 25-8, went all the way to the Sweet 16.
We were up 17 early in the second half against a really good Cal Poly Pomona team, and they had some real talent. They had to transfer from Arizona State. They had to transfer from, somewhere back east, but she was a California kid. But those kids were obviously really good players. Kayleen Goggins from Shepherd was a really good player. Janelle Olson from Billings West. It was basically an all Montana team. Chelsea Banis is from Fairfield and had gone to Montana State initially. And so obviously Bobby was on those teams, was kind of the engine. She was when she graduated, she was the GNAC, which is the league we played in. She was the all-time league scorer and assister when she graduated. I think both records have since fallen, but yeah, so just tremendous young women. It was a great run, and obviously we had we had a ton of success, and like we were right there for the Elite Eight, and they got over the hump. I think 2 or 3 years after that, they finally, when Breen was a senior, when Alicia was a senior, they got to an Elite Eight, and so Kevin got that one crossed off the list, because obviously that's the big deal in D2. If you can make an Elite Eight, that's a gigantic deal.
Well, I love to see the success and resiliency, and also just so many small town Montana kids making it. Obviously, you being a small town Montana kid that makes it from Ronan. So I think the narrative is just awesome. But what did Kevin Wooden teach you that still shows up in your teams today?
I think that Kevin, and it might not even be on the floor, and there are some things basketball-wise, but Kevin did as good, and I think he still does to this day, does as good a job of taking care of his team and taking care of his staff in a way that is really, really unique. He will bend over backwards to take care of anyone who works for him, anyone who plays for him. He's going to go above and beyond at all times. And he's just such a caring, kind person that those aren't generally adjectives you hear that describe really, really successful coaches, but they're two of the ones that would come to mind first as I describe Kevin, who's a really, really successful basketball coach, but he's also one of the most kind and caring people that I've ever met.
So when you joined Tricia Binford's staff, then your next move over at Montana State, Tricia Binford, obviously a staple in the Big Sky Conference, entering her 21st year. What did you immediately notice about building sustained success over there? Like it definitely was an uphill battle. It was a journey, right? Every coach that takes over. What did it feel like, and what was the move like from MSUB over to Bozeman?
It is different because, you coach at small college and you kind of do everything and you're involved with every program. You're helping with the softball tournament. You're helping with all of the, whatever it is. And it becomes much more insular when you get to the Division I level. Like you deal with volleyball and men's basketball because you're messing with gym times. You might play some noon ball with some football guys, but really it's your program. And at that time, we were really kind of punching up at the Lady Griz. It was at the tail end of what Rob was doing, and you're trying to catch the machine that Rob had built. And our first year was a little bit up and down. We closed winning 9 of 11, and then it was, like I said, we got to the next year and. Coach Amy Starr, who was another staple, was with Trish for a lot of those years, and then she had left, and so we had this opportunity to hey, this is what needs to be done to keep going, and had a great group, and Trish really got that group locked in and lined up, and it was kind of the start. Won the league, lost on a half quarter in the conference tournament, but that really set the table for the next year when we won the league, won the tournament, and then it's kind of been up for there. And now it's so funny. It's almost it's almost flipped a little bit as I take over here. Like we've got to go the opposite direction and close that gap and really take that back from them because they've had such a tremendous run here. Moving into the near future here.
I think about that 2016, 2017 year. I was calling the tournament, been doing this now for a few years. So that was back in the Reno days. But a Peyton Ferris and a Riley Norgard, just really tough kids. I mean, they were really resilient. And, you became the associate head coach at MSU. How did that eventually prepare you to lead your own program?
Yeah, I think that Trish did such a good job of she gave you responsibilities and she didn't really like what we did defensively. I mean, there was some input, but what we did defensively was really just kind of figure it out. You have this much time in practice. You have this much time to do this. And, so it really prepares you how are you going to plan this? How are you going to coach this? And I think she is just such a professional and everything she does in such a professional way that's what I really learned from her is just her level of professionalism and her level of, because she had obviously some experience at Boise State, some experience at Utah State, but most of Trish's basketball experience is at the professional level. Her recent stuff where she had played so much and been so successful. So Trish really approaches things from a different approach than a lot of college coaches. Like I said, she's just got a very organized professional approach. There, but there was a lot of autonomy in that where it was nope, this is your role. We need you to be really good at it. This is your location, and she does a really good job of hiring people and trusting them to do their job really well.
Visiting with head coach Nate Harris for the Lady Griz. Today's episode is brought to you by the Big Sky Conference. Nate, I want to get into the Angelo State head coaching chapter. So you leave Montana for Texas. That's a pretty big leap. What scared you the most about taking that leap and what ultimately drove you to take your head coaching position?
Obviously being that far away from our family, being that far away from my wife's parents, from my parents, from our siblings, being off on our own, but honestly turned into something that was really good for our family. I think our family is tighter because of our time where it was just us. Really, our parents came down and people came and visited, but for long stretches, it was just us. There. And like I said, it was great for me because you learn so much. We had some success and we had there was a really hard year in there too, where just nothing went right. And we ended the year with 7 people. There was so much that we learned about ourselves. And I learned about myself as a basketball coach that I'll never forget San Angelo. I'm really thankful that our youngest daughter was born there. So we have an all the time tie, this constant tie to the community because our youngest daughter Hayden was born in San Angelo, Texas, because like I said, I think it was a huge step for us as a family, me as a coach. And I'm really thankful for our time there, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. You
made an immediate impact because your first team did go 18-10, and you reached the regional before COVID shuts everything down. That was such a weird time in all of our lives. What did those moments teach you, though, about leadership through uncertainty?
Yeah, first off, I like to claim that I have 1/64th of a national championship. That game was not played. There were 64 teams left.
That's great.
I have a small sliver of that national championship. That's my first claim. after that, it was just one of those things where it was honestly really similar to last season in that what you focus on is what matters. And in that case, it's like when there's uncertainty, when there's things going on, just focus on the kids and focus on their success and focus on their experience. And if you do a good job of those things, other things will work out. And I think that was our soul. That's really how we tried to get through last year, as well as things were a little bit hazy and all over the place. It's just focus on the kids, focus on their success, focus on their experience, and everything else will work itself out.
I love that approach. So now you're going to make the return to Montana, and maybe COVID had a part of that, is you just wanted to be closer to family, but I do think Montana is in your blood, it's in your roots. So in 2021, you return as an assistant to Montana. You get your wife back to Missoula. What felt familiar and what felt completely new about making this move?
There's no group of fans like Griz Nation, and there is no program that has the built-in advantages that we have just from people care so much about Grizzly athletics as a whole, but Lady Griz basketball as a part of that. And so just from the jump, that felt familiar, from coming to games and sitting in the GA and watching the Griz and the Lady Griz and going and sitting in the north end zone growing up, that felt really familiar right away. People love Grizzly athletics, and there are not very many places that get that support kind of, really no matter what. Now you might have to deal with some people yelling at you when things aren't going great, but that's just because they care, and they care so much about it. I think what was new, like I said, is kind of the pecking order of the league had changed, and there was just things were just done a little bit differently, and there was some stuff that we had to get right and get fixed, and no different than today. It will never be good enough. It's one of these great double-edged swords. It will never be good enough to be anything but the Big Sky champion at Montana. And that's not good, that's not bad, that's just the reality. When you don't win, it's, well, that's what is expected. And so embracing that and understanding that and working towards that at all times, hey, how do we win the regular season? Not because that's the ultimate goal, no, because that gives you the best chance to win the tournament, and that's what the kind of the bar is here. Are you going to the NCAA tournament? Rob did it 21 times. How do we get back there? And so that's what we're doing, is we're hunting down number 22, because that's what Griz Nation expects. That's what we expect. And that's kind of the standard here. Thanks to, players like you and coaches like Rob and his staff. You guys built such an amazing program. You've left so much for us that we have to live up that standard. And it's not necessarily daunting. It just means that you have to understand it and you have to embrace it rather than run from it. Because of the hard work of you and the countless Lady Griz alumni, there's an expectation that comes with putting on a Lady Griz jersey.
I always think it's kind of like a sorority, right? I mean, it's interesting when you do this 10-minute mingle now after the game, which we were talking about. We're like, I don't know how that would have gone over when we played with the mingling. If it was a loss, we were terrible losers.
It's hard to take a loss and then go out there and thank people for coming, but you don't get to have a unique thing without being thankful for it.
Well, right. And so I look at all the players that show up and they're just so invested, right? So you automatically have this sisterhood, and we all are cheering so hard for these kids, and we all get to know them. And I think it's a really special history we have in Missoula, but also, different era now. So now we move into this different era. So in January of 2024, you're named the interim head coach. I think about that just amazing game last year in Missoula, Bobcat Griz, where it was literally just a 1-point game. Yeah. It was so exciting in front of, 3,500 fans. It was just really electric.
It was packed. It was fun.
And Montana State is at the top and was at the top last year, but you were the team that really rocked them and played them so hard. And then from then on out, you have your ups and downs as you head down the stretch, and you head into the tournament as a number 6 seed. You beat Idaho, you beat Northern Arizona. You get into a grind with Montana State. You're almost dancing. But how did you process last year with taking on that interim role and rolling right into the tournament?
Yeah, I think that, like I said, so much of it was very short-sighted in terms of like like I said, our only goal was to take as good a care of the players as we could, to give them the best possible experience we could. And as it got to the tournament, it was a great reminder, because I don't think we make the run in the tournament if we don't have the debacle in Bozeman. And so because the debacle in Bozeman forces us to assess where we're at and really be honest with ourselves. And there's so many things. And I remember we had seniors like, what can we do? How can we do it? I was like, play better basketball. That's the answer. Play better basketball. And the rest of the stuff will fall into place. And so we really focused on like, this is what we need to do to play better basketball. And we still have a chance to go make a lot of memories. You can end your career differently than it's ever gone. And we were so close to, Danny Barch came seconds away from having one of maybe the most iconic Lady Griz ending to a career ever.
Probably one of the most, it was an amazing shot. And I played.
And it still went in. And I wish we would have made it, because it had the chance, like I said, to be this, not just for her, that would have been a good ending. We're talking about one of the greatest endings to a career that you could have, to knock off a 30-win rival with a last-second three. It would have literally gone down in the storybooks as like, who had the best ending to a Lady Griz career? It's like, well, that's tough to beat.
Well, and talk about emotional highs and lows, because I'm calling the game, and I'm obviously removed from emotion. But Mara Dykstra had that shot of not come off so quick for her to get another shot off. Yeah. You're going to the NCAA tournament. So it's literally highs to lows, and that's just like the game. But I want to back up, because I do want to talk about that run and just let our listeners know how hard it is to go into an environment in Boise, and you're playing 3 games in a row. So you beat Idaho on the 10th of March, and then you have to beat a really tough Northern Arizona team. And then you head into the championship game. But it was quite a run, Nate. Can you take us inside the locker room? Like, what were the locker room moments like? Like, how was this team? They were so poised through this run, but just take us through that.
I give a lot of credit to our seniors and their approach, and they were really even and steady throughout it. And then obviously, Mac is back, but Mac, arguably, like I told her after the NAU game, I was like, geez, I could really get used to this best player in the league business, whether it was creating shots or making shots. And I said, I just think that they found their style. They found their approach, and they defended with a real intensity that carried them through. And then offensively, like I said, we played with great spacing. We, tweaked some things down the stretch that we've carried into this year offensively, and made us really hard to guard, and gave kind of Mac the space she needed to be really effective. I thought we got a much more mature version of Avery Waddington that week. Like I said, it was. Basketball is all about, especially basketball in the Big Sky, is about peaking at the right time. You don't want to have your biggest win of the year in November or December. You need to be playing good, because as good as you are and as good as that Montana State team was, we learned from their seeding that had we held on, they weren't going to make it. It is about being really good for 1 week in March. And now hopefully as a group, we can get the Big Sky Conference to a point where we have some teams step forward and take the lead and really push the envelope on an at-large Sunday. But I don't think we're anywhere close to that. I don't think I think we will need to have a team have the sustained success of a South Dakota State before a committee is ever going to be like, nope, just because they lost in this game, we're still gonna take care of them. But I still think we're years away from that. And so before the championship game, I said, this is what it is. We don't need to get lucky. There's a team that got really good in November and stayed really good throughout the entire year. And we're a team that we didn't get really good, honestly, until about this week. But we're playing as well as anyone here right now. So we don't need to get lucky. We don't need a miracle. We don't need anything other than to go be what we've been this week. Like, we're as good as they are. We just didn't get there till this week. And so that ultimately in the Big Sky is what it's about, like peaking at the right time.
Right. Well, I think you made everybody in the Big Sky believers. And I know when we went to do all of our voting for preseason and we're picking players, everybody had Avery Waddington and Matt Koenig on their mind. And it's been really great in my role of covering the Big Sky Conference and getting a chance to spend time with all of these programs and their head coaches. And there's just so much respect that's been given to you and these players heading into this preseason and non-conference schedule. Taking a look around the Big Sky, Montana State's just had a really big win last night against Colorado. They beat UNLV at home. Idaho's off to a really good start. Northern Colorado is. When you look around the Big Sky, what is your take this year? Do you think it's anyone's race, or are there any teams that are really, popping out like, hey, this is going to be the team to beat?
I'm going to show my style here. I honestly have not paid that much attention. The only reason I knew about Montana State and UNLV is because I'm so tight with Jocelyn Tinkle, and I was keeping track of the game, because of her as a friend, and I'll check scores eventually. Most times I know where people are at, and I'll send some texts when people get some big wins and do some stuff, but I generally don't pay attention because we don't play those teams till January. And for me right now, it's my sole focus is, are we getting better? How do we manage this next chunk of our schedule? We have a great week with our Summit League Challenge this week. How do we get better this week? And I want every Big Sky team, honestly, to win all their games because that helps our league and makes us
Doesn't
better.
it? That's what you want. I mean, and that was maybe why I was even bringing that up. It's like, you have a team that gets a win and you look at how that will help put the Big Sky Conference on the map. So you almost look at it as like more collectively, and then you're right. As soon as conference time starts, you are dialed in and knowing everything about Idaho, knowing everything about Northern Colorado, but give yourself another month, Nate.
Like I said, that's I'm jacked. That really helps us. It would have been and it would have been great for the league if we could have knocked off BYU a week ago. That would have been 2 Big 12 wins for the league. But I'm glad that Montana State got one. And for no other reason than it makes our league better. But Montana State will be a problem. Where is it at? Even in our schedule, Montana State will be a problem for the week of January 12th. January 12th to the 17th. We play them on the 17th. I have my schedule in my office. But until then, my focus is North Dakota. And how do we play better on Wednesday against North Dakota, so that we can continue this process of building a team that can go win 3 games, hopefully in 4 days rather than 3. That 3 and 3 is really hard. I don't think it's been done yet. So 3 games in 4 days. You got to get that by so you can have that extra time. But win 3 games in 4 days in Boise.
Well, Nate, I want to switch gears and take the last part of this interview to talk about your family, because I think that it's just so integral with you. And I also feel as if we got to talk about these girls. You got these 4 daughters that are just doing all these awesome things.
We could have spent the entire time talking about them and I would have been happy.
I love it. So your wife, Elise, is a Missoula native. What does this mean for your family to be able to live in a town that you're so close to and means so much to your wife?
It's really important, and it's really, really cool. When I step back and think about it, there's not many people that are as blessed, lucky, whatever word you want to use. My parents live, they've since moved into town from Ronan. So my parents live about 15 minutes from us away, and we live out in Frenchtown. They live 15 minutes away. Elise's parents live about 12 minutes away. Her sister lives about 10. One of my brothers lives literally 5 minutes away from us. And then my other brother lives in Helena. He's the outcast in Helena, of all places. How dare he? But to have our family this close and then be part of this is really cool and really unique. It just doesn't normally get to happen like that, especially at a program where my wife grew up going to Lady Griz games. Oh, this is my favorite player, and I picked my number because of this player, and then to go on, and I said to have Grizzly Athletics be such a huge part of our life growing up, and then to now be the head coach of this program where our kids are friends with the Lady Griz. My wife sometimes is she's like, this is so weird because I grew up thinking so much of the Lady Griz that it's weird for me to see them as these just normal kids that have, good and bad and up and down. And so, like I said, it's super humbling in that way. But again, to do it with our family close and in my wife's hometown. And I grew up, essentially, this is where we went to Target and Costco and Kmart and Shopko back when those things still existed. That was, like I said, it's really cool. And someday, a long time from now, I'll probably think of it as more than just cool. It'll be, an honor that is really hard to explain. But for now, I'm just going to treat it as cool. and not let it become too much.
Well, one story about Elise, she was probably one of the first people to reach out to me after the passing of Skyla Cisco, which has been really hard to lose a teammate, Nate. It's been kind of crazy to lose two, losing Malia Kipp and Skyla Cisco in the same year. It's really tough, but I got such a comforting message from your wife. And then she came up with the best idea about sending out a package to the family every year on 12/12. Completely her idea. Maybe it was the two of you, but it meant so much to our program.
Yeah, Elise, like I said, Elise loved Lady Griz basketball. She played for Skyla. Skyla was one of her high school coaches, maybe her freshman year. Skyla was the sophomore coach. I don't want to get it wrong, but so she.
You got it right. You got it right.
Better than I knew. And that's one of the things that I've tried to tell. Skyla means a lot to this program, and I didn't even really know her that well. But she was always just so kind. She was always there, and that's why I tried to explain to our team when she passed. I was like, you may not know who Skyla is, other than she's this really good player who played in the program. But I guarantee you, she knows exactly who you are because she loved the Lady Griz. And so it doesn't surprise me that my wife, Elise she loves the Lady Griz and she loves people. Her favorite quote is, be somebody who makes everybody feel like somebody. And she lives that. And so that's really cool. And again, not surprised at all.
Well, I want to talk about Henley, your 14-year-old. She's obsessed with basketball, loves to play and train. She definitely likes the same types of things you like with the statistics side of basketball too, and also football and baseball. But she's playing for Frenchtown. She's getting a chance to play high school basketball as a 14-year-old. That's really amazing, Nate.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're excited about it. It's just another thing for this crazy year for us to really add that to the mix, but she spends a lot of time. She loves it. I'm not gonna go. This will go public, and I can't gas her up too much and say she's a pretty good player. She works at it a lot, and I'm really proud of just she saw something she wanted to do, and she went and worked at it. And so that's the coolest thing as a parent to see. Beyond being good or bad, that part doesn't matter. But to see something you want and be like, nope, I'm just gonna go work for it, is really cool.
The pictures of the two of you in the gym. I mean, just putting up shots. I can tell she's like the yin to your yang, and that's really neat to see.
We're very similar. We battle pretty good, but no, she is a unique one in terms of, like I said, not many people when they're 14 have any clue what they want, and it could change. She could be 16 and decide she wants something different, but to be 14 and say nope, this is my goal, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm about. It's been really cool to watch her embrace that over the last, 6 months to a year.
So we have a few more H's that we need to talk about. Harper will turn 12th on December 13th. Holland is 9. She's definitely the life of the party. Now, your wife has told me that, but I also agree because she's always the one that seems to come up and say hi, or she has something to say. And then I love it because your baby, your youngest, Hayden, is 6, and she kind of likes to do whatever her sisters are doing. It seems like.
She's the baby. She's she's gonna follow those girls to the ends of the earth.
And I see that whole pack behind you coaching at every game. I'm over on Media Row and I watch them, and nobody is more happy for you than that crew that sits behind you. And so without trying to make you cry on the air, Nate, can you talk about how fatherhood has reshaped or helped you with your coaching?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, like I said, I try to view things, and I'm not perfect in their days, but I really try to view things of is this how I'd want somebody to treat my daughter? Mm-hmm. I explain to my players, you have to understand, there's nobody in the world that I'm harder on than my daughters. I expect a lot of them for no other reason than that's how the world works. And so I really do frame it I think that they're a unique crew, and they've all got their good things and their weaknesses, but they're a crew that goes and gets after it and knows how to take care of people and knows how to you said 6, 9, 12. The 6-year-old might not. She's a baby. She might not. But the 9-year-old and even the upcoming 12-year-old, they know how to work. They know how to compete because it's just been what's driven our family for so long. And they understand that ultimately it's about the people in the room at the end of the day. There's lots of people that are going to have opinions. There's lots of people that want to tell you how to do this or how to do that, or this was good or this was bad. But they understand that at the end of the day, it's the it's the 5 people under the roof at night. Well, 6 if you count, like it's the 6 people under the roof at night, and those are the ones who count, the people that are there for you when it is bad. And so they've learned a lot of lessons through coaching, but I really do try to approach it of like, is this how I want my daughter to be treated? And understanding that it's my job to raise them. It's not my job to raise the kids I coach, right? It's my job to coach them. I don't need to be their friend. It's my job to help them go from A to B. It's made me a more patient person. It's made me better in so many ways, but it's also given me this framework of like, good, bad, or otherwise. Like, would I want my daughter to have this level of accountability? Would I want my daughter to have, how would I want somebody to treat my daughter in this situation? And now a lot of times for me, because I know I'm a little more driven, like there are times when like, yeah, I tell coaches all the time, like, no, don't let Henley off with that. Like, you have to keep your thumb on her. If you give her an inch, she's going to take a mile. Or like, no, like help Harper grow. She's got to get better at this. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's been a unique thing, but I'm just so proud of, again, I try to talk around it because it makes me so emotional, but I'm just so proud of my kids and their understanding of family and of hard work and of making other people feel valued.
Nate, I can't wait to let Missoula and the Big Sky Conference have this glimpse into your family life because I think it's so special. So thank you for sharing all that. We're at the end of our interview, and I just wanted to see if there's anything you want to add to this interview.
No, I thank you for the time. Thank you for the platform. We love, like I said, love my family, love the state of Montana, love Lady Griz basketball and everything Grizzly athletics. It's been such a unique piece, and to be the de facto, I guess, there's a lot of leaders in our program, but to be the leader of this program is something that's really, really humbling and really, really special. And so again, just the chance to talk about it and talk about my family is, I really, really appreciate it because those things mean a lot to us.
Well, thank you, Nate, and best of luck this season.
Thank you.
This is Around the Big Sky in Women's Hoops with Hall of Fame coach Carla C.T. Taylor, former Weber State standout and the program's all-time winningest coach. Each week, CT joins me to break down the matchups, storylines, and rising stars shaping women's basketball across the Big Sky. This segment is proudly brought to you by the Big Sky Conference. Welcome in, CT.
Thank you. Great to be here. It's been 2 weeks. We missed last week with Thanksgiving.
I hope you had a good turkey day.
Yeah, I did. I hope you did too.
Well, while we were busy taking our holiday, there was lots of basketball that was being played all across the Big Sky. And we're definitely seeing a couple teams that are taking the initiative and looking really great. One of those is Idaho. They're 7-1 right now. They won the UC Irvine tournament against Colgate and Wichita State. They're on a 6-game winning streak, CT.
Their only loss is to UC Davis, and that was back at their elementary field trip game with 5,000 students, but against a really good UC Davis at UC Davis. But they've got 4 players in double figures right now, and they're sharing the basketball. They're scoring like they always do. They're really 7-1, not too shabby, and they've played a good schedule.
Well, in Montana State at 5-1, and I think that they're definitely a team that we need to talk about. They had that loss at Troy. And
I watched that, and they just didn't look like themselves. They just didn't click or whatever. But
well, and we should say that Troy last year was 24-14 of the Sun Belt, and they went all the way to the finals in the WNIT. And so this is a program that's done well. And so there's that loss. We just have to talk about this recent Colorado win. Just a huge win on the road, 71-70. Right. CT, what do you think?
It was an impressive win by Montana State. You could tell they were prepared. The coaches did a great job of preparing them against a really athletic, taller CU team. And you know, obviously, we're going to talk about Taylor Cherrick's 19 points and her shot at the buzzer to win the game by 1. But also, we'd be remiss if we don't talk about Addie Harris. I think she is kind of their X factor. Her toughness, her rebounding. she is a major factor in Montana State's success this far. She is so good inside, offensively and defensively, and rebounding. Addie Harris is having a year already.
Well, and she's just poised, too. She's playing like she's a senior, and she's not. She gave them, 31 minutes, but 17 points. It's just so big to get a win like that on the road. And I always listen to Coach Binford and what she says after the games. And she said, this team has some of the characteristics of a championship basketball team. You just don't hear her say that very often.
But they do.
But they do.
Because of their defense. Their defense continues to stifle opponents. I mean, poor CU, they outscored CU 15-6 or 17-6 in the last quarter. And they created 23 turnovers against a CU team, a Big 12 team. That says a lot about your defense and the tenacity of their defense. Their defense is their best offense.
Well, it is. And you look at, Taylor Chiric, she wins the game. That's really, it's amazing for her to go, take it to the hoop, but finish soft.
She did. She took it to the hoop against 3 players, didn't hesitate, and kept the ball. She did a great job of keeping the ball in front of her so they couldn't block her shot. She scores it. They don't foul her, and they win by 1. Another player in that game that was huge for them was freshman Heidi Smith. She hit some huge baskets. But then I think something that I'll bet she was in the gym this week, and that is she went 1 for 4 in the free throw line from the free throw line in the last minute, and they could have really put it away. So to have the confidence for Trish to put that freshman in that situation will go miles for her, because she could have put it away, and she was nervous.
Oh yeah, for sure.
She's a great shooter, and just isn't able to hit the free throws, but they're still able to get the win. So I'm thinking she was in the gym shooting some free throws after that game this week.
Well, and Coach Binford plays 10 players. CT. So, she definitely leans on her starters, but she played a lot of kids because she's relentless on the defensive end, and she refuses to accept anything less than 100% out on the court. And Taylor Chiric, she makes the game-winning shot, but she also has 4 steals. And so, you talk about those 23 turnovers, that aggressive defense leads to more offensive opportunity for this Bobcat team.
And it gets in the other team's head. You have that pressure, and they pressure you 40 minutes of the game. They pick you up full court. They're trapping, and they're aggressive on the ball once they get the trap, and they stole a lot of balls out of the trap. It was fun to watch.
Moving along to the University of Northern Colorado. Now, they're 6-2. And they had a really great overtime win against Lamar back on the 8th of November. But then, they get the 1-point win against DePaul, and that was huge for them. And so you look at some of their confidence building, and they're led by Tatum West and Nina George. Yeah. What do you think about Northern Colorado?
I've watched them a few times so far, and I think she does such a nice job defensively, mixes things up, and she's got some scoring weapons inside and out, and they're really clicking right now. You can see their confidence growing each game and getting better and better. Northern Colorado's looks good.
Now, we have some other teams around the league that are struggling some. Montana's schedule has just been brutal. We just heard Nate Harris talk about it in the previous segments, and it's really challenging because, CT, how do you manage kids and their expectations and feeling so down when you get drilled like that over and over?
Right. It's difficult. I really thought Montana would have a chance to get Utah on their home court. After watching Weber State, they were within 6 points in the last probably 4 minutes of the game at Utah. So I'm thinking, okay, Montana, they have a chance here. They're at home. And I just think it's hard when you play so many good teams on the road. It plays the psyche in your player's head. You have to balance playing those really good teams with some wins and some easier games. They have a chance to win. They don't lose their confidence because it's hard. Montana right now, they've played probably the toughest schedule and have come out on the shorter end of the stick. So it's hard. And again, I think they have some easier games now, but you do see the psyche and the confidence start to go, because whether you want to say it or not, your success is based on wins and losses. And they think that too. Players think that.
Heading into this next week, so we have the Summit League Challenge. And I think that's going to be a time where some of these teams can reset. This is the third season in a row where the Big Sky Conference and the Summit League match up against each other in a home and away non-conference games. And I think it looks to me as if it's fairly parallel. I mean, there's a lot of good teams on either side. I mean, we got South Dakota that's leading the way. Good old Carrie Amy over there. They're 7-1. And I feel bad that Portland State drew them out of the chute. You know, one thing that I really have to commend the Big Sky for is giving the opportunity for some of these teams to come into their home environments, because it is getting harder and harder now, CT, for these programs to get home games.
Right.
And absolutely. So, and on the men's side and the women's side. And so there will be a trophy, and the Summit League has won it the last couple years, where they take the men's and women's results into consideration equally from the 36 total games. So it's kind of a fun back and forth, but I do think that it's good quality basketball by two very solid conferences in the Big Sky and the Summit League.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, the North Dakota State, and all those teams, South Dakota, they're all really good, but you also get them at your place, and then you have to go there, vice versa. So it is a great opportunity to be guaranteed one of them as a home game. And it'll be exciting this week to see how the Big Sky teams match up.
Will you be on the call for the Saturday, December 6th game that is North Dakota State at Weber State?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, 12 o'clock game. Tune in. You never know what's going to come out of my mouth, but it'll be fun. And
North Dakota they're in third place on the Summit League side with a record of 5-2. So Gentile Jackson will have her hands full.
Right.
The one team that isn't participating is Sac State. So there's only 9 teams on the Summit League side, and so they are the one team that is not going to be participating. But they will be leaving the Big Sky soon, so it just kind of worked out that that's our one team that's not in the rotation. CT, talk a little bit about like this time of year. You know, rotations are starting to get set, right? Coaches are getting comfortable with who they're starting. Roles are starting to be, you know, identified. What is it like as a coach this time of year? You know, you're dealing with the holidays, you're dealing with finals, all of the other things. Like, what goes through a coach's mind in this stretch of season?
I think the hardest thing are finals, because you see female athletes so serious about their academics, and you're traveling, you're playing, and they're worrying about tests, and they're worrying about finals, and, you know, it is difficult. You just have to keep them focused, but also you're playing a lot of games, and that helps because you're not spending week after week in practice. You've got games probably every 3 to 4 days, and you're preparing, and that keeps their focus, I think, on basketball. But yeah, it is a struggle to balance the academics with the basketball part.
So as a coach, do you look at it as two different seasons, like non-conference, and then everything starts over in conference play after the first of the year? Is that how you would look at it as a coach?
Yes, I do. I think you have 2 seasons, well, actually 3, because then once you get to tournament play. But yeah, your preseason is going to prepare you for your conference games. So you're hoping you've got all the kinks worked out, whether your starting lineup, your rotation, and your style of basketball. By now, you hopefully have that. But you're also working on situations and constantly teaching, and that all continues. So coaches are they're pulling out their playbooks. They're, I think, beginning to now think situational. different situations.
Well, and we also see players start to emerge, right? Maybe some that were spotlighted in the preseason that now are, stepping up and just making a difference for their teams. We've had Idaho's kind of dominated the player of the week, Kira Gardner and Hope Hossman, the first 2 weeks, and then Taylor Chirick got it in the November 25th. I mean, she might be up for it again here.
Another player that we should mention is Northern Arizona's Naomi White. She's averaging almost 22 points a game, 21.9, and shooting 43% from the three-point line. NAU is struggling at 1-7, but man, 22 points a game, she's a baller.
I mean, she's leading the Big Sky right now in scoring as well. And this is White's first season of collegiate action after returning from her redshirt. She took her redshirt year as a freshman at Grand Canyon. So that might have something to do, Laura Dinkins bringing her over. She had a lot of success at Grand Canyon. But I know you have these leaders, right, that maybe on paper you don't see them emerge yet, but they start to make a difference for their team.
Right. And, Idaho State is 4-2 right now, and they had a 1-point loss to South Dakota, a tough 1-point loss, or they would be 5-1. They have been in every game. So
they had a great win against Portland. That 1-point win against Portland. And, of course, I'm a big Tasia Jordan fan. We talked about her, but she led the way with 13 points. But I'll tell you something that was really great about Idaho State is they had 10 kids that scored. Yeah. And when you look at that is success for Coach Sobolewski. Right. He also, played a lot of kids, and, he played most of his bench over 10 minutes or more. And so to see that kind of spread and then to just get a rewarding win like that.
Portland State got a recent win at San Jose State, and they're led by sophomore Kaylee Brown, who's averaging 17 points a game. I like her style of play. Just some real standouts that we're not surprised about.
I got to talk about Hannah Chicken. So she had 15 points. I'm a fan, CT.
I know.
And so I picked right up on that. I didn't get a chance to watch that game, but a really big win against San Jose State. So if you're Portland State, you have to celebrate those wins. You have to celebrate the moments and really nurture those bright spots. And I think that they're going to be in the mix. Everybody is competitive this year, CT.
Right. There's no game that you're going to stroll in and just overlook a team, because at any given night, any team can beat any other team. So, which is good. You want the conference to be that level.
Well, CT, I am so thankful for you coming in and giving your opinion, setting all of our listeners straight and letting us know what's going on with CT and what your thoughts are on the Big Sky Conference. So thank you for coming on this week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, CT. Thanks as well to Nate Harris, head coach for the Lady Griz, for the insight and for taking the time with me today. And thanks to you for listening. This week's episode of the Krista Redpath Show was brought to you by Vertical Rays and the Big Sky Conference. Coming up next week, a great conversation with Arthur Morera, the head women's basketball coach for the University of Idaho.